Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now in G+, we are joined by 10th Man and Sleeping Warrior. Very good to have you both.
Woohoo! Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, good morning. And we've also got a fair few people in Discord as well, so welcome to everyone in Discord.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, hey. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Nope. California reporting no sign of earth curvature.
Any evidence of axial rotation?
Nope. Oh, yeah. Sun goes down over the horizon.
Yeah, I saw your chat with that claim to be academic. No. You want to tell us why?
Say that again.
Yeah, I saw both your video, your follow-up video, and your discussion on Ranty's Roundtable. So shout out to Ranty Flat Earth YouTube channel. Subscribe today. Sleeping Warrior was over there discussing with a claim to be academic his version of what he called science, which was actually pseudoscience. But nevertheless, one of his prophecies was the sun, right?
Yeah, he thinks that the sun sets proves that the earth turns. And I was like, okay, so how does it prove it? And well, the fact that it does it, okay, but you said the word prove, right? That means that we must be able to have some kind of element of science that demonstrates this. Otherwise, it's not demonstrating the point. We just believe it by virtue of what we see. Observations don't prove things. They just provide evidence that may support a position, but doesn't mean that it does. So what proof have we got that the earth turns? Basically, they just accept the way it looks. And I'm like, right, but you can't tell, can you? We don't know that the earth's turning, and we can measure it, but we haven't measured it. Nobody's measured it. So how do we know? There is no answer. They just won't accept that there's no answer. They just believe it anyway. It's really bad, actually.
It's an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy like all of them. If the sun sets behind the arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, then the earth is turning. The earth is turning because the sun does seem to vanish behind the arbitrary position where the sky meets the ground. Hey, Chocolate.
Good morning, guys.
Hello. Hey, Righteous as well.
Chocolate.
Well, me, Chocolate.
Riley, what's up, brother?
Not a lot, dude. Same shit, different day.
Yeah,
It's the convention coming up, though. It starts today.
Oh, that's right. Well, you guys meeting up, right?
Yeah. I can't wait. Getting excited now.
What is like the meetup? Like when is the actual convention? Is it one day?
Tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Earlier today, if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980.
Very cool. Arwen's going to be there too, right?
No,
I don't think
Amsterdam.
I don't think he's going to England. I think he's going to the Amsterdam one.
We're talking about the Kidderminster one.
The
So the one in
Amsterdam.
Kidderminster's tomorrow / today if you're watching it on Nathan Oakley 1980.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird.
So there's one in England first, then Amsterdam?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that there were two.
Yeah.
Correct. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
What is gravity first?
Well, have you noticed what the ballers are now saying? They're now saying you can't have Newtonian gravity and Einsteinian. They're both the same. And we're like, oh, really? That's not what we're told, though, is it? One of them's a force, the other one's not a force. That doesn't make them similar. And then they think that we're misrepresenting what's being said by virtue of the fact that there seems to be two models. And it's like, nah, one of them's a force, mate. The other one's not a force. One of them acts instantaneously over distance, regardless of the distance. The other one's limited to the speed of light. One of them's in 3 dimensions. The other one's in 4 dimensions. They're not the same. They can't be used interchangeably. They are fundamentally different, but they won't accept it.
Good summary there.
Oh, that's a shame. They are different, fundamentally different.
If you see the recent Neil Smoke the Grass with Joe Rogan, he's trying to instill that we know gravity is because we can use he can use it because he knows that we land things on Mars. So for him, that's proof that gravity exists, and it definitely is the bending of space-time. According to Rogan? That was Joe Rogan and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
So they can't
And that was very
effectively.
recently.
So they can't effectively show it here on Earth. They have to go to Mars.
You can never do anything on Earth, can they? It's always far out galaxies that happened millions of years ago.
I'm gonna pop yourself on mute, Chocolate.
Yeah, I know. Hold on.
Yeah, that sounds.
In your own time, Chocolate.
Yeah, good.
My bad. Yeah, so
It's still bad.
he land things on Mars. So that's what's going on. And it's funny because he seems very defensive, and even Joe Rogan called him out on it. He was just like, why do you seem so defensive about gravity? Hold on one second.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mars-
Defensive about gravity.
Well, Mars is a light in the sky. Now, the little pictures they show you on your television screen that are claimed to be a journey through a violation of a natural law, that would be the space vacuum, the sky vacuum, space. Well, that bit of their narrative is just lies. So they're saying they're travelling through a vacuum to the light in the sky. They're not. Now, the light in the sky itself isn't in any way, shape or form ever going to demonstrate that you can bend a concept. That concept being space-time, which they're insisting gravity is. So they're insisting it's a concept. Now, saying that the light in the sky and their bullshit journey to it on a TV show doesn't prove that you can bend a concept, or that a concept is giving rise to a non-force force that you can think of as a force but isn't actually a force called gravity. This is nonsense. Bending of concepts. I don't care what Neil deGrasse Tyson says. There's no scientific validity whatsoever to these nonsense pseudoscience assertions from a dude in a waistcoat.
Well, he's very aggravated, it seems, as to why people keep asking why. Why does this happen? Why does that happen?
Oh, so people want proof.
Yeah. You just have to accept. I mean, that's what I got from it. You just have to accept. It's the bending of space-time. We got this.
10 years ago.
He said that at one point.
Yeah.
We got this.
We got this. 10 years ago, his word as a pseudoscientist priest of heliocentrism was good enough. Now it's not. Now we know you're a pseudoscience pretender clown with absolutely no scientific validity to your assertions, and people are clearly prepared to challenge him on it. Just, we've got this. That's your answer. We've got this. No. Give us some science. Give us some empiricism. Not we've got this. What, you, the dude in the waistcoat? You've got it, have you? You've got it covered? What, our entire world paradigm? What an outrage.
Yeah. It's embarrassing. But now people are beginning to realise that we haven't got the proof. And once you realise that we don't have the proof, and asking for it is not a crime, then that's like, well, that means the whole of science now is in jeopardy, and it hasn't been in jeopardy before. It's just been accepted as a self-regulating authoritarian body of whatever's.
The whole of
realize it's not.
And that's what I got from listening to him, because he did sound very agitated. And it's not like there was somebody there. I mean, Joe Rogan, I guess, just asked him, what's going on with this gravity shit? Do we know what it is? Whatever. And he goes into describing it, but with almost a kind of, oh my God, I've been asked this question. People want to know why gravity's doing what it's doing, and it's almost kind of like he's aggravated that people are asking these questions. So I'm sitting there watching it. I'm like, wow, this is pretty funny.
I know it was a slip of the tongue, Anthony, but the whole of pseudoscience is what you meant to say. I know that for sure.
Took the words out my mouth, 10th man. Took the words out my mouth. Absolutely correct. So yeah, the science will absolutely weather this storm of the nonsense bullshit pseudoscience being washed to one side. Science will be fine. Pseudoscience, pretender clowns like Neil deGrasse Tyson, they're fucked.
Yep. Which is the beauty of it.
Well, science is asking the question if it had lips, and pseudoscience says, go back to sleep. We don't want you.
We've got this covered, guys. Really? What, with science? Let's see it.
Have you seen it? Has anybody seen it? The most recent one.
I saw the one listed, and I just wasn't going to waste my time. But after your short summary, I am going to go watch it just to see him scoring.
Yeah, because when I was in Discord, somebody posted it to me. It was just like, just go to the 2-hour mark, right, and just listen to his response, because that's when they start talking about gravity. And it's like 2.5 something hours long. So I went straight to the 2-hour mark, and yeah, sure enough, he's sitting there seeming to get kind of pissy, because he's trying to describe to everybody that gravity is the bending of space-time. And yeah, that we just have to accept that. We got this. Stop asking questions.
He might be trying to correct for the first time saying that he doesn't know what gravity is, or nobody knows what gravity is. Next question. You guys remember that clip?
Yeah. I think it's beautiful that they're actually being challenged to prove it rather than just preach it, because everyone can preach it. That's what Gem Panda does and all his friends. They all preach it. They all preach Coriolis. They all preach that the Earth is the atmosphere is in lockstep with the Earth, but then planes don't go any faster east over west.
Well, they can.
It's just odd how they change the narrative to suit their bias.
Well, that's what that guy did yesterday. He parroted gravity. So that one person's, in the higher authority says it's this, then all along that chain to my guy that I met yesterday is the same thing. He's just parroting it. I said, what is it? Describe it for me. And that's when I took something on the table and I said, this is at rest. Its equilibrium is at rest. If I lift it up and drop it, why is it falling? And he said, gravity. And I said, well, think of it another way. Why? What's another reason why it's falling? And I said, how about the weight of the object? He says, oh, yeah, it's heavier than the air. And I said, there you go. So if I pick up something, I'm picking it up. I'm giving the kinetic energy to it, and I'm dropping it. It was sitting there fine, resting. It had found equilibrium in the medium it was in until I did something. I go, so I'm the one causing the up and down issue here. There's no force pulling nothing. And his eyes just went to the back of his head.
Shout out to Awakened Narrative for the super chat. Says, help me back to the ball belief. Show me proof, please. Yeah, you're not going to get it. That's not going to happen. It's been 4.5 years.
It's like taking the binky away from the baby and he still wants it. And then you got to take it to the trash can and cut it with a scissor and say, it's gone. It doesn't work anymore. You let it go.
It's going to be an interesting few next 12 months, because I think there's more and more people waking up to the idea that maybe we're not on a sphere after all. And I think our strongest position is to not assert that the Earth is actually flat. I mean, it could be flat, but I think it could be also other shapes. I don't necessarily think that we're capable of seeing the full extent of the realm that we live in. We could be on a flat part of a meteorite that's floating through space and all that, but we perceive that it's flat and think therefore it must be flat everywhere, and it might not be. But at least people are asking the question now, and it's like, if we don't make any claims and we just ask them to prove their shit and they can't prove it, then they actually prove that they are shit. So it's just a play on words there, and I hope you all catch that. But ultimately, by asking the question to prove your claim, we're not in any worse position than.
See, but I don't see flat Earth as a claim. I see it as it's the default position. Nobody sees curvature. Nobody feels motion. So if somebody's telling us that it is curved and it is moving, that's the claim, and that's the thing that has to be proven.
Yeah,
Sorry, but that's how I feel.
I concur with Chocolate. Last night when I was talking to that fella, he directly asked me, so you think the Earth is flat? And I said, well, I don't know how big it is. I just know that I don't see a curve. It's not turning, and water finds its level. Have you been to the ocean? I go, so whatever it is, it allows water to find its level. And he just shut up. He didn't know what to say.
Who said that?
Yeah.
Who?
No, I said that to that guy.
Yeah, who did you say it to?
Oh, just a guy at the restaurant.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he works there. So,
Speaking of,
I said, "Oh, go on."
No, you go ahead, 10th man.
No, I was just going to say the things that we have to work with is all we have to work with. So, like Chocolate says, we don't see curvature. So that's obviously something that we could either see or not see. And then it's the lack of Earth-based Coriolis. So the causes of Coriolis, not the effects, because it's an apparent effect anyway. So if I'm not turning, I don't have that apparent effect. So obviously I don't have it, or else the Charlotte, North Carolina flight would be headed to LA in 1.5 hours. All right, so bang, two of them right down, the checklist. And then the third is, how does water behave on any container, whether you put it in a coffee cup, a teapot, bathtub? What does it do? What's the top of the water do? It finds its level. So what's the notion? Water. Well, what's it doing? Well, at the top, it's level. What's at the bottom? I don't know, canyons, all kinds of valleys underneath. Who cares?
Right, Chocolate's correct. I mean, but for the fact that they insert this presuppositional R value, or immediately go to spherical trigonometry using that R value, there is only one default position. You remove the only presupposition in their mathematics and you're left with planar geometry. You're just left with measuring it how they build stuff, which is to assume that it's flat, because that's exactly how it presents itself to you. And when you ask to justify, or ask a fundie to justify why they're not taking it in that way, they'll give you some cockamamie nonsense about measuring horizon dip, like the horizon has any relevance in your actual life when it's an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, simply reified into the edge of their sphere. Anyway, speaking of potentially being on a meteorite flying through space, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon for all the fundies who believe there is a sky vacuum called outer space?
No.
No.
They're definitely not on a meteor flying through space then.
I'm just being.
He was funny. He was having fun.
Okie dokie. Any evidence?
Have you noticed how contradictory Rumpus is? Travis was.
Yeah, Travis snipped it out.
Hang on. Say that again.
Yeah, Travis snipped it out. Very funny. Shout out to Travis. Is it A Plain Truth? His channel.
I think it's called The Plain Truth.
The Plain Truth channel. So Travis, shout out to you, my friend. Very funny.
So basically, Rumpus has made another contradiction, but they have to contradict themselves on that point. Coriolis. But Travis got him to say that. I can't remember exactly how we got it now. I'll probably mess it up. Nathan, do you want to take over, because you understand the point that he would have made better than I did?
Well, Jose just read it back. Jose came and just detailed it as well on the show, so he came in and basically explained that he'd had his comment read back to him and the contradiction thereof. And Rumpus highlighted the fact that it sounds contradictory, which it absolutely was.
Not realising it was his own words.
Yeah, that certainly seemed to be the case. It was read out by Jose as a Quantum Eraser comment. Verbatim comment from Rumpus, but I think Rumpus probably confused what was going on and thought it was a statement from Quantum Eraser, and then said that's contradictory.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. John QE posted it. I'm finding it right here. The rumpus, aka the doofus. We know the world is rotating, and we know the atmosphere is not rotating very much with the respect to the Earth. Therefore, the atmosphere is rotating with the Earth. It's very simple.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
He is my favorite baller. Rumpus.
Really? I always like Sly
For all the wrong
Sparkane.
reasons.
I like Sly. Fuzzy little sod.
I find R.C. Meisty entertaining with accelerating coffee cups. And a new fallacy every time he comes on the show. He's Mr. Fallacy guy. His chocolate labeled him.
Xanac for me.
I like the ones that do stuff. You know, the ones that actually get out there and do stuff. So you've got Soundly and Sly Sparkane, and I like those guys. They're actually doing something. Very useful for us to pull apart their rhetoric when they're presenting their rhetoric, right?
Well, the point I make is you're right. I mean, there are people who actually do stuff, and you got more concrete evidence against them. But this topic being what it is, it's so much fun to be able to laugh when they say things. And so when the Rumpus and R.C. Meisty come up with some of their stuff, right? And then Zanuck, it's like, I just want to laugh when I'm on these debates. It's just a good medicine for a flat earther to be able to laugh at these stupid comebacks.
The other thing that's a problem is because it's so contradictory, and they can never accept that there's a contradiction. They always have to like obfuscate the point to death. They get the benefit of confusing terminology, because rotating reference frames or inertial reference frames over inertial and non-inertial reference frames is confusing, and you only need a slight slip of the tongue, and then they use that then to be the excuse for why you don't understand what's going on. Yesterday, Brenda was
yeah, but I do that too. So when Zanuck accidentally, mistakenly labels the rotating reference frame the inertial reference frame, I'm all over him like flies on shit, shouting at him about how he doesn't understand the Coriolis effect. So you just have to understand it, and then you can do that too, like I do.
Yeah, what I realise is that they use that misspeak, the slight misspeak, to negate the whole point that you're making, rather than just say, well, yeah, he just misspoke. But Brenda did it against Ranty yesterday, or on Jose's. It might have been the day before. Ranty said something that Brenda misheard. She then quoted Ranty as saying something he didn't actually say. Ranty couldn't remember exactly whether he did say it or not, apologised for saying so in any event in case he did, then clarified his position. But what happens is they go round and round and round in circles, because it's like, I don't even see how it even applies. If the Earth isn't turning, right, then Coriolis doesn't even need to be a conversation. And unless you can prove that the Earth is turning, which we all know that they can't, then why are we even talking about it?
I'll tell you. Let me answer. Because the claimed proof of Earth turning is the apparent deviation claimed to be there as a result of Earth turning. So Earth turns underneath, and objects that leave the rotational non-inertial frame into the inertial frame are demonstrating a deviation if you remain on the claimed to be spinning ball. So you remain on a ball that's claimed to be spinning, and as your drone takes off from your vantage point, still on the ball that's spinning, having watched the drone leave that spinning frame, you see it apparently deviate. Now, the fact that it apparently is deviating, it might only be ascending vertically, but from your position, it seems to be curving away from you, because you continue to rotate underneath on the claimed to be spinning ball Earth. Now, that's a big problem, because that's why they argue about it. The Coriolis deviation that we don't see is the claim that we're proving Earth spinning. So the deviation itself is the claim to be proof of Earth spinning, and we don't see it.
Yep. Anthony, you met, by the way, great job on that street interview with the two college students.
Oh, did you watch it?
Oh, the whole thing. It was fascinating.
Glorious, isn't it?
More than glorious. But what the one part of that where she couldn't identify the independent and dependent variable, and she mistakenly gave the wrong title for the dependent variable. You called her out on it, but there was no retraction. There was, oh, okay, I misspoke. Let me say it again.
I know, but
You
I don't
see?
think she understood that she was wrong. I think she still thinks that I was wrong.
Well, it's in a public setting. Everyone's defensive on their own point. The emotions are running. She possibly could have misspoke, but when you brought it up, that would have been the time for her to say, well, you're right. I meant to say this, which would have been real easy and very honest, but she didn't.
I don't think she did misspeak though, because the preface
That's my point.
to my question, the preface
my
to my
point.
question told her that I was going to ask her what is the, because I said I don't think you know what the independent variable is. So she knew by my next sentence that it was going to be about the independent variable. It's not as if I caught her off guard with a left jab that she didn't see coming. She knew it was coming.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you gave her ample opportunity to retract and say it like Ranty had to re-say it just to make sure he was understood, but she never did it.
No. Just like all the ballers, though, none of the ballers ever correct anything that they ever get wrong. But Rumpus gets loads of things wrong, and he never corrects it ever. And but tells everybody that he's 100% right 100% of the time, and it's like, Rumpus, you're just not.
Well, that's the first violation of non-contradiction there. 100% right, 100% of the time. Right there tells you
let
he's
me
wrong.
give you a really good. My favorite example where Rumpus is wrong and he won't admit it is when he says that scales are a force measuring device. Okay, so what's on the scales then? He says a weight. Right. Okay. So has that weight got mass? Yes, but mass is not a force. Okay. So is weight a force? Now, weight being little g, it's got the mass times little g. Well, little g is not a force because Einstein says it's not a force. So that means that if you've got a weight on the scales, you've got a mass that is not a force, according to Rumpus. You've got little g that is not a force, according to Einstein. But there is definitely something on the scales, and there is something showing a result. So what is the thing that's pressing down if it's not mass and it's not little g? And Rumpus will not accept that he's in a state of contradiction. He thinks that it's okay. And I'm like, Rumpus, you're clearly wrong. Why can't you be honest and admit that you're in a state of contradiction? You just can't do it.
Very good example from Mr. Air is not the atmosphere, otherwise known as Rumpus.
Yeah. It's cognitive dissonance meeting up with I have to lie for tender clowns.
Yeah, it's madness, isn't it?
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Don't even know what the sun is. Doesn't triangulate on either model.
No, it's not measurable. It's a light in the sky. Yeah.
Not very much from Discord.
No distance.
Fair enough. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Lava.
Nope. What?
Lava.
Do you want to explain that one?
Tongue
Me?
in cheek.
I'm not a baller. I don't know how to explain it.
Oh.
A baller wouldn't even try to explain it. They just say lava.
Well, hold on. Lava in their narrative doesn't come from the molten iron core for a start. So if they're claiming that lava is somehow a proof of that, when lava in their own narrative doesn't come from the core, then just call them out and ask them to show you any bullshit diagram of what they claim the centre of the Earth is and show me that pipe from the centre to a volcano, and they won't be able to, even in their own narrative.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not claiming that it is or isn't true. I'm just saying that that's not the case in the narrative, that the lava isn't proving molten iron core.
How about the wild stretch from a week ago? Tectonic plates.
Well, ironically, that would actually be more akin to where lava comes from in their narrative, but absolutely not any proof of the globe.
I was listening to a Hangout a day or two ago. Conspiracy Cats was on. I don't know if it was pre-recorded or whether it was like recent or whatever, but they were talking about current topics. So I got the feeling it was like very recent, if not live. It was on in the background, but I heard him talking about seismology. He still argues that seismology proves that there's a molten iron core around Earth. And I'm like, oh my God, you just completely ignore the fact that seismology is an interpretation-based observation that has no experimental application whatsoever. And I can equally interpret it to say that this is just simply a cake. And you wouldn't be able to prove that it is or it isn't. So Conspiracy Cats is he's just another one that's in total denial. He just ignores the reality that he can't prove the claims that he believes, but he tells people that we can prove it with seismology. Come on, Conspiracy Cats, stop being dishonest. We know that you can't prove it with seismology because it's an interpretation of an observation and nothing more.
You've told him that though. So, you know, when he did his interview on Haunted House, he explained his lack of sleep and his concerns for having to contemplate the extent of the lies if he ever accepted the fact that he'd been lied to about the nature of Earth. Well, clearly he's chosen to, you know, perpetuate that pain that he's suffering and stick his head in the sand because you've told him this. So the fact that he goes around punting it still just means he's quite happy to be a slave to his religion and lose sleep over it. You know, well, more power to you if that's the life you want to lead. It must be very depressing.
When you're coming from where they're coming from, where you already have given the R value to the very thing you're trying to explain. Oh yeah, that's iron molten core lava. Okay, well, what happens when I'm driving my car and one of the shocks is acting up and I get a shake and rattle in my car? Do I immediately say it's an iron molten core issue with my car? No, because a car doesn't have an iron molten core. It's just that one of the shocks went out. So because they've married this thing called the globe Earth, anything that happens, earthquakes, this, whatever, it's got to be the iron molten core. It's got to be something connected to the first lie. They can't think outside of that.
It's like when they look at horizon observations and any obstructions curve on their model, right? So it could be caused by absolutely anything, right? A bird could fly past, and if it happens to obscure the thing that you're looking at in that frame, they'll pick that frame, they'll call it Earth curve, and you wouldn't realize that it were actually a bird. But any obstructions curve, they'll do anything to hold on to their model.
Which is a perfect time for
it's
Nathan's,
not attached to lava or crust movements or any of the other parts of the narrative. I don't really understand where you're getting the idea that the molten iron core is tied to these things.
Well, what I'm saying is, since they presuppose a spherical Earth and they presuppose the R value, they're given all these things in their mind, then anything that happens has to be connected somehow with that. So when they go to iron molten core and tectonic plates, it's all with the mindset that, okay, I'm on a spinning ball, so it has to be this. So they're just connecting it from one fallacy to another fallacy.
Yeah.
So what Anthony is saying is that when you see
that's not necessarily the case
in the distance.
Other than that's not necessarily the case. So the molten iron core narrative is a whole separate deal. It's a completely self-contained narrative within the heliocentric model. So the narrative that gives you a molten iron core in Earth is the narrative of Thea. Have you never heard this this tale?
Say that again. The first
Thea,
part. The
planet called Thea. Have you never heard this story?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so at the creation of the solar system, how does Star Wars start it? A long time ago in a galaxy claimed to be where we live. There was an explosion that left all of the debris from the formation of the sun and gravitational accretion taking hold, giving rise to various different planets, one of which was a fledgling, smaller than current dwarf planet, if you will, called Earth. And on a similar orbit was another planet called Thea. Now, based on the mathematics that they give us for the elapsed time that we have within the solar system, Earth's core should have completely gone away a very long time ago, according to what they say it is and how long we've been here. So part of the narrative is that planet that was on a similar orbital path smashed into Earth at a glancing blow and deposited its molten iron core in Earth. So Earth got like a double toffee nougat strike impact where it deposits its molten iron core, doesn't obliterate the fledgling Earth, just increases its molten iron core size, and then the debris that's left over coalesces to form what we now call the moon. And we know this because they made it up themselves.
So this is the latest, Nathan, of their consensus, so-called consensus. It's just so ludicrous, my goodness.
Well, that's just a story. It's just a story they made up about how the moon came into to be in fruition, how it coalesced from, and why it's the same material as we have here, because it essentially is just leftover bits of us that have, come together through gravitational accretion, and that's what they claim the moon is. based on an impact from a different planet called Theia, a glancing blow, depositing its molten iron core, the leftover debris coalescing and forming the moon, and us being left with an oversized molten iron core that's still hot. There you go. That's the story.
Makes perfect sense to me, because the 100 moon rocks that the astronauts went around the different countries and gave to museums was later found out to be petrified wood. So that totally makes sense now.
Yeah, I mean, come
Don't
on.
they also sometimes
At the end of the day, we ended up with a beautiful rock floating around us, orbiting around us, that somehow or another reflects sunlight perfectly, somehow or another is tidally locked to us, somehow or another people have walked on and did all that. So yeah. Thanks, Dia.
So answer me this then, just as that is the standard narrative, right? So this planet smashed into Earth and bits have smashed off into space. Why would they coalesce into the moon rather than coalescing around the substantially larger body of Earth with its now oversized molten iron core? Why wouldn't
Exactly. I thought that same shit when I saw the History Channel documentary. I thought the same shit. Like, wait a minute. Why would those rocks go up there and do that? Why wouldn't they just all just go around? Especially you just got deposited with this whole molten core. What the hell?
Well, and
No
also,
sense to me.
one other thing too is it overcame entropy. All these dust particles and gas particles overcame entropy magically.
Yeah, with the same thing we argue about here on the ground when they talk about the atmosphere being next to the vacuum. What's overcoming entropy in that narrative? Well, gravity, according to them. Well, precisely, what's causing that you've just described? Well, gravitational accretion, of course. The bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time giving rise to a non-force force that you can think of as a force that's not actually a force called gravity. That's what causes that, Paul.
And I'm so glad there was an eyewitness
What
reporter
comes
who saw the
first?
whole thing.
What comes first, the gravity or the mass that attracts the mass to create the gravity?
The bending of space-time, according to Einstein, gives rise to gravitational accretion.
So how do you bend time?
You don't. This is just bollocks.
Yeah, there's no such thing as time.
But I think DeGrasse said something like, space tells matter how to move, and matter tells time how to curve. That was literally his statement.
I recall that.
Yeah,
I recall that.
oh my God.
Well, I know it's off the subject a little bit, but I still like your slightly looming non-standard refraction, hiding a holographic projection from behind a curve that you can't see.
And how do they get that? Using the begging a question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator?
Correct. I was just about to ask exactly that. Any evidence of the R value used in because it's a begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator. Any evidence of the R value? Earth, radius?
No.
No.
Nah.
You remember, well, I don't know if you guys remember, but in my day, we used to go to the drive-in theaters. You guys know what those are, right?
Well,
I'm old enough to remember that, yes.
I remember
All right.
For the talkies. For the talkies. Right, 10th man?
Yeah. They had a big field. They had 3 screens, the one that I was close to. And in the center was a building where you could go to the bathroom, get snacks, and the projection rooms would have their own angle to each one of those screens. So they'd be playing 3 different movies, and you just drive in with your car with your family, pull up to kind of valley-shaped pavement where your car would be facing up a little bit, and bring in the speaker on the wire and put it inside your window and watch a movie on a huge screen. Well, if the Earth was slightly looming, non-standard refraction, then they can just have one theater and everybody in the world can watch it because they just project it up. How's that?
Hey, Ranty. Thanks for all the background noise. Yeah, perspective's real. You know, there's a certain distance that you wouldn't be able to see the screen anymore. But this isn't proof of R.
I'm just having fun with them. I gotta laugh.
You're looking forward to tomorrow night?
I am.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going down with Riley.
Are you driving down together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's driving?
Me.
Anthony's driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what we
Archaeology?
need to do, Nathan? You know when ballers criticise us for just dismissing everything that they say with a nuh-uh? Well, what we should do is, in respect of that claim that they make that we do, when you do the housekeeping questions, we should just answer them all with nuh-uh.
We don't do that.
Any evidence of our nuh-uh?
But we don't do that when it comes to their
Well,
claim.
we should do that, because if we're getting accused of doing it, then we may as well just do it.
That's flat out projection. That's what they do.
I know.
Fair enough. That concludes the housekeeping.
Yeah.
I might have something to share with Anthony. I think you might like this. I'm gonna present it now. Okay. Can you present me, Nathan?
Yep, you're on.
Okay, here you go, Riley. Just for you.
Hang on a sec. I've got different screens open at the minute. Let me get over to it. Where are you presenting this? In the Hangout?
Nathan show. Oh, I could have done it in the Hangout? Okay, jeez. Alright, well,
You're in the Hangout,
I could do
Anthony.
both.
You're in the Hangout. Just go to the Hangout page.
Oh, I thought it meant Skype, sorry.
Great ice ball theory. Great ice ball Earth theory. The real shape of our planet. Regular flat Earth model. Sun melts a pond on the ice ball. Yeah, do you know, I think this is the other one that I think is a possibility, because the sun is the thing that melts all the ice. If we do have an ice thing, wall or sphere or whatever, and our sun is like on a small scale relative to the rest of the world, is melting up a peephole in the ice, and that is what forms our oceans, then that makes perfect logical sense that there could be more of them around, with more suns not knocking around. They're just beyond our ability to see them, perceive them, to calculate them or whatever. So that is kind of, that is an alternative explanation that I can totally logically see.
Incorrect.
Not saying it's true. Just
Why do you
conjecture.
like these?
Wrong.
Why do you like this idea?
Well, do you want to know why it doesn't work? The size of the sphere, right, is set in stone now because of how they've reified the motion of the skies to match that sphere. You can't change the radius value. To make it enormous and a ball in a space doesn't work. It doesn't match with what the sky does. So, unfortunately, no, you can't just make it a bigger ball. It can only be the ball, the size they say it is. If they had a choice of size, I assure you they'd have made it a lot bigger. They didn't have a choice, because they've taken it from the path of the sun in the first instance. Well, that's going round the outside edge of the sphere. That cannot be changed. So saying it could just be bigger, that's the first problem. Second problem, what ice? What are you talking about?
No, this is my
Yeah,
question.
but Nathan, that doesn't mean they're not going to try, because remember, now the moon is in our atmosphere. So it's not to say that they won't try to just shove something into the narrative, just a new little tidbit, just to change it up. Because I don't think anybody thought that they were going to actually ever say the moon's in our atmosphere now, right? And look at it where it is now.
That's different. No. Right. The Tor values, they can change. It doesn't make any difference to anything. Right? None of us are visiting the second law of thermodynamics violation where those Tor values have been changed. So that doesn't mean anything. However, the size of the ball won't ever and cannot be changed. That's set in stone. Sorry. So it can't just be a bigger ball.
Right, so when you said what ice,
Yeah,
that was
what
my
ice?
question to Celtic67 when he was bullying either Roxanne or Dolly Daydream. He was criticising them for not answering his question. So I just said, okay, answer my question. My question is there a point where the sunlight or rays can no longer prevent the water from turning into, the ice from turning into water? Or the absence of sunlight, does it create ice? And we all know that there is a point where the sun can no
So
longer
you're going to
melt the
ask
ice.
and answer your own question?
Pardon?
So you asked a question and then decided or proceeded to then answer it yourself?
You said what ice?
Yeah.
Well, do you agree that there is a logical and an evidential point where the sun can no longer melt or stop the ice from forming?
What ice? The ice that you've just invented in that question?
Well, we do have ice caps on their model, don't we?
So?
Well, what causes that on their model?
Oh, we don't live on a model. What the hell are you on
Yeah, I
about?
know.
So
But
what
what
ice?
causes the ice caps on their model?
I don't care. What ice are you talking about? I don't care what the model says. What ice? What ice are you referring to?
The ice. Do you agree that there is a logical and a reasonable point where the sunlight can no longer prevent water from forming into ice?
Say that again.
Do you agree that there is a logical and a reasonable and an evidential point where the sun can no longer prevent it can no longer stop water from staying in the state of water and it becomes ice?
I don't know. I've not been there. I've no idea. I've not even come close to.
So if you
of
don't know,
1,000th
if your
of
answer
one-
is you don't know, then you don't know whether there can be or cannot be ice. You can't rule out that there's not ice if you don't know one way or the other.
And you can't reify it into existence either.
Only if we accept your answer to be correct.
What, that you've got no way of knowing either way, but me not knowing either way is somehow excuses to reify ice into existence in places we've never been? I don't think so.
Well, we do know that as we get towards what they tell us is the line of the equator, we tend to get more sunlight. The light is concentrated.
Yeah.
By virtue of that fact, we also know that because we are further away from that point, that it gets colder because the light is getting less powerful. Well, it's logical and reasonable to think that the further north that you go, the light is unable to keep water in its state of liquid, and ice starts to form.
Would you logically not assume that there are many more suns beyond where you claim there's a point that the sun can't melt the ice? Logically, there must be more suns.
That's why I think there could be an infinite plane. There could be infinite suns.
I can't believe you're bloody agreeing with me. I think that I have no notion or idea that there could be any more suns. I was doing that to be absurd. I didn't expect you to bloody agree with me.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying that it is a logical progression that if we have one sun,
what the hell is going on? Living in banana land. No, it's not logical. I've just made it up. I just made it up off the top of my head.
Riley, you're gonna give Nathan a heart attack, bro.
Let me just.
I understand that. I'm
Concede, Nathan. Concede. He's got you by the
concede.
Girl is here.
Outrageous. Bloody hell, getting ganged up on by Ranty told to concede when I'm the one with the winning argument. Bloody hell.
I'm just pointing out that there is a logical point where the sunlight isn't strong enough.
Let him say it. Let him say it. Let him say that there's a place where...
Anthony, you're on the ropes here.
Yeah, let him say it. Let him say there's a logical point where the sun can't melt the ice he's just invented.
I am saying that is exactly. I mean, you can't deny the fact that with the absence of sun causes the liquid water to form into ice.
If P, then Q, then Q, then P. Come on, Anthony.
There's definitely liquid water beyond where we have been already then, and there's definitely no sun.
Yeah, but we also know that the absence of the sun causes the water to reduce temperature, go into its solid state and become ice.
You've inverted what I said, and we definitely know there's an absence thereof beyond a certain point. We definitely know that, do we?
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do. We don't. There is evidence of Antarctica ice walls and stuff.
Antarctica ice walls? So what, the claim to be an island at the bottom of the sphere? That place?
Not necessarily at the bottom of the sphere.
Oh, no. Sorry, my bad. I forgot. Sorry, I should have reified your model into existence to make this example work, shouldn't I? Sorry, my bad. The ice wall on the azimuthal equidistant projection of a sphere. Yes, that one.
Oh, well, you can do it on any map, but if you accept that we have a sun and you accept that the sun causes ice to melt...
What ice?
The ice that you just invented. There, you don't have sun.
Right, I've just got to shout out super chat. Shout out to Awaken Narrative. He says,
Hey, Anthony, the one problem you have too, even if there's ice out there, you still have to have containment.
That's what's holding the oceans in, isn't it? The ice.
No, I'm talking about the containment for even ice to begin with, because even ice will sublation, whatever that word is, which means it'll evaporate. So even if there is a so-called massive ice wall, eventually all that ice would have to go into the vacuum of space and obey entropy. So even with your massive, huge ball, you're going to have containment.
Perhaps, but don't you think that would be the fun of going to explore? To see what happens when you go beyond the point where the sun can no longer
melt the ice?
Things.
Anyway, let me shout out the super chat. I've tried twice already. Keybread is a master of presuppositions, says Awaken Narrative. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Well, I would say fill up that gas tank of Ranty's car and just keep driving and report in as you see things.
Ranty's car? He's not driving. Tight kid.
Well, who's driving to the conference?
Me.
Okay, well, in your car then. Just
you're taking the Knight Rider Land Rover?
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's not going in his car.
Which car are you going in? You renting one?
No, it doesn't matter. Let's not talk about that. I was more interested in talking about the sun.
Okay, so am I.
We're going to need Airwolf to come in for a rescue job there.
No, we're not. We're not going to get to the point where the sun can no longer melt the ice.
Oh, what ice? Oh, my God.
Right, Nathan,
hey, Jose.
Are you denying that the sun has a proximal relationship with us?
I don't know what the bloody sun is. Why are you asking me this?
Tony, it's a malformed question.
There is a proximal relationship between the sun.
It's a malformed question.
Ranty's flip-flopping.
Tony.
Go on, Ranty.
No, because it's a malformed question. The sun melting the ice. There is a place where the sun melts the ice. No, which should be, is there a place where the sun can no longer keep the water from freezing?
Yeah, that's basically what I was saying. Maybe I hashed it a little bit, but
what the hell?
That's my
just
point.
Changing the description of the phase change doesn't change what you're asserting.
Nathan, answer my question. Do you think that there is a logical, reasonable point where the sun can no longer prevent ice from forming, or no longer prevent the water from staying in the liquid place? Yeah, of course there is.
Absolutely no idea what is surrounding us.
I'm not saying that we know what's surrounding us. What I'm saying is that we know that there's a lot of water on the oceans, right? And we know that the sun has a proximal relationship to us.
Yes.
The further away from the sun you get, the more colder it gets. The further away from the cold you get, the more that the water cannot become water anymore. It has to change state. Can't deny that. Does that mean that there's an ice wall? Maybe. Does it mean that there's loads of ice? Probably.
No.
The question is, how big's the map?
I don't know.
They did just say it's a logical
100% correct, Riley.
Why? How do you know? Have you been?
Nathan, don't jump down Riley's throat. He's totally correct. We are AE guys, man. Come on, you gotta give us that.
Julio Pabon says.
What did you just say, Jose? You're a what guy?
Just give me a second. Just want to shout out this super chat. Julio Pabon says the ice Aladdin is chasing the penguins on. Don't really understand that, but thank you for the super chat, Julio.
Okay,
don't ask for chocolate. Don't give it away, man. Shut up.
Okay, just to wash my hands of all this, like that was posted as like a troll meme. I wasn't being serious, and you guys are all taking it serious. So that's pretty bizarre.
No, we're not taking your ball of ice in the sky vacuum seriously. It's just Anthony's assertion, but based purely on the azimuthal equidistant projection from the North Pole that we've got a bloody ice wall.
No, it's not. It's not based on that at all. It's based on the fact that the sun has a proximal relationship with us, and if there's a lot of water, and we do know that there is a lot of water, then it stands to reason that there is a point that the sun can no longer stop the water from forming, and it has to be absent of heat and therefore ice. I'm all right with that. It's logical. Unless I see evidence to the contrary, then that is as far as I can go. I'm all right with that.
Whatever.
The question is, where is the sun?
Again?
See, Righteous, you weren't too far off, only because Riley does have a tendency to say things like maybe it's a bigger ball. So
that's why I presented that.
Right. I know. Yeah. That's why it's not a problem. Like we've gotten into this before, so.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this before, or I wasn't on the show then.
Someone from Discord asked
Some
me.
balls
My problem with the bigger ball is it still
Everyone's wrong
requires
saying.
gravity.
Just 1 second. Hold on, Chocolate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on. Someone from Discord asked a question. Did you want to repeat your question about the sun? Something about the sun, I heard.
Yeah, Ranty, where is your sun if space doesn't exist?
Inside the dome, innit?
I don't know.
You kind of.
That would be the next step. That would be the next step, because if I was a flat earther and we listen to this, if that's the only thing that makes sense, like it's not the azimuthal equidistant will be the flatter map, but it's the idea that the North Pole is in the center, the continents are rearranged certain way that everything works perfectly, and then in the parameters in the outside will be Antarctica. That's the only way. Why?
What?
Because there's a correlation that the sun is going around, melting the water, and then you got the pole, you got the continents, and then the ice beyond is the only logical conclusion.
No,
Riley, shout out to you. You're right.
It's not. That's horseshit. It's just a presentation that is forced upon us overtly and subliminally in the form of an azimuthal equidistant projection and Gleason's map with an ice wall on the outside edge. You can project that map anywhere you like without ice walls. The fact that we get it foisted on us with a North Pole positioned azimuthal equidistant projection that happens to produce an ice wall with what they claim is an island of ice doesn't mean anything to me. Nothing whatsoever. It doesn't mean that there's some logical conclusion I can draw about where the sun doesn't melt the ice or doesn't keep the water from freezing. I don't know what's beyond there. There's no point making logical extrapolations. We don't know what the sun is. We don't know how far it is. We don't know how far it reaches. We don't know where it reaches. We've got none of the answers, but we've got all the...
We do know it has a proximal relationship with us.
With us?
Yeah, we might disagree on we might disagree on the way the behavior on the sun and the way the Earth looks, but 90% of the flat earthers, even though they say they don't have a model, even they say they have no idea, they 90% have the AE map in the back because that's what they think the Earth could be, because it only makes sense, Nathan. I mean, it's the only way.
Yeah,
no,
Jose's just trolling now. He's just trolling and being a atypical flat earther to be contrarian. Well, whatever.
He is trolling, yeah.
I know.
But the thing is, we agree with him, Nathan, then that makes it a consensus majority, and therefore we're right.
I don't care about your consensus in regards to maps and models. It doesn't mean anything. If you're saying the sun has got a proximal...
we all agree with him just for the sake of it, for this conversation with you, that means that we're right and you're wrong because it's consensus driven.
Oh, right. Well, you can take that as a cheap win if you like. All I'm saying is that it makes no difference what you say the sun does with its relationship with us and what we do experience if you're going to start making logical extrapolations about what we don't experience.
Jose's right.
this conversation makes sense today because
this is great.
Because it's Friday the 13th, so this conversation makes complete sense today.
No, you know, this conversation is here because of the absence of ballers.
Well, yeah.
I do enjoy this discussion, like for real, guys. Believe me or not, that's why I jumped in. I've been listening for a bit. I say I had to jump in just in case. I just want to give you my take, and I'm putting myself in my flip-flop shoes from, I don't know, a year ago when I was a full-on flat earther. And I wanted to say this many times, but I didn't have the pants to do it. You know, I was more of a mellow layback. I'm more loud. I'm more of a troll now, you know. But I got a bigger voice now. And
do you enjoy being with the ballers more?
I'm with them the same amount of time.
If you want to enjoy the continuation of this conversation, then stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching live on Nathan Oakley, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. A massive thank you to all of today's panel for making this debate possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!